Recording. There we go. Good to see you all. Hi, Stephen. Uh, we have a couple of new faces. Well, Jeremy's been here for several weeks. B, I think, is that right, B? I can't read without my glasses on there. Is joining us from Florida. So we're going to begin with try to set up motivation with some prayers, which most of you know, or if not all of you. Sangye chodang soki chognam la, changchu badu dagni kyapsu chi, dagi chunyen gipe sognam ki, drola benche sangye drupa shog. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. Through the collections I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all migrating beings, or to benefit migrating beings. Drola Penshir, it doesn't have the word all there in the Tibetan. So when we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, when we take refuge in the causal Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, rather than the resultant Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, that we will eventually become Buddha, we will become Dharma, we will become Sangha. When we take refuge in the causal Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, main one is the Dharma. That's what really protects us from suffering. So when you say that, the Buddha, Sangha, was the teacher of the Dharma, and the Sangha are the spiritual friends, spiritual companions that help us take the medicine of the Dharma. But the real medicine is the Dharma itself. So when you say that, think taking refuge in your Dharma realizations that you can utilize from your Dharma toolkit to protect your mind and protect yourself from creating negative karma and so forth. Sangye chodang soke chognam la, changshu badu dagni kyapsu chi, dagi chunen gipe sognam ki, drola penshi sangye trupasho. By offering this ground, so this is offering a mandala. By offering this ground anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon, visualized as a Buddha realm, may all migrators enjoy a pure realm. So there the word all is in there, Drokun Namdak. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be subdued, of those to be trained. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryataya Me. So before we begin a little meditation, Mikhail, how can we offer the sun and the moon and the four continents and all of these things that we don't presently possess, the seven special objects of a Chakravartin king and the seven near objects and so forth? How can we offer them? Is that kind of cheating?
Mentally offering it's a mental action, mental karma.
Yeah. So can I can I give away things that I don't own?
Not physically, but mentally, yeah, sure. Or whatever you imagine, no?
Yeah. So usually what's said is that we do have some of the things that are unowned. We do have like the sun and the moon and so forth. We do have some karmic you know, we do have some karmic ownership of them because they appear to us. And so we can offer that. Also, every time we make a prostration or even put our hands together in homage to the holy beings like the Buddha, we create the karma to be born as a Chakravartin king as many times as there are atoms under our body when we prostrate. And so we have created, if you've ever made one prostration, we have the karma to have the seven royal symbols and the seven near royal symbols. So we can think that's when we're making a mandala offering, we do have some something that we do have some ownership of them in a sense. Okay, so let's sit comfortably, try to calm our minds from the shock of the tariffs. Relax your body, relax your mind. Notice your breathing. Place your mindfulness upon it. As your breathing becomes more shallow, more subtle, you notice that you don't have to concentrate on some movement of the body, like the movement of the solar plexus or some other phenomena associated with the breathing, but you're watching just the sort of the quality of the air element, that which is mobile, mobile, mo, moving, and that which is the opposite of heavy, light. When you take your attention away from the senses, from, let's say, looking at the participants of the class in your computer screen or the sound of the voices, and you're just looking internally, you start to notice things that went unnoticed when you were paying attention to the words or the sights. So let go of all of those. If you've been successful, excuse me, if you've been successful in calming some of these other thoughts that were there before, move to the more subtle object of the mental consciousness. What are you thinking? Don't follow any of the thoughts, the content of your mental consciousness, but it's through those that you can identify the mental consciousness, which is that which is clear in knowing, something very subtle. And particularly focus on its nature, its conventional nature of clarity. It has an ultimate nature of clarity also, which means its emptiness. But here we're talking about its conventional nature of not obstructing the arisal of content to the mental consciousness or to any of the consciousnesses, not forming any obstruction to that, not preventing them from those events reabsorbing into the consciousness. Which is recognized as our conventional Buddha nature, the developmental Buddha nature. Recognizing this again and again, hopefully every time we do it, remembering the import of this and developing a happy mind, the fact that we can get rid of all of our faults, we can become a better person. We can develop all good qualities, things that we at present think are beyond our reach, different qualities. It's a matter of familiarity, creating the merit to develop those realizations. The fact that we can recognize this Buddha nature and feel some joy in that is because of this auspicious moment, recognizing again our situation, this short-lived, like a flash of lightning, life of leisure and endowment. Well, at the most, 120 years? Or if you read bogus tax reports, 150 years, 200 years. But most people live around less than 100 years. And this, compared to the lifespans of the Prater realm and the Hell realm, that's a drop in the bucket. It's like a flash of lightning. But while we have this, like the situation when a bolt of lightning flashes in the sky and everything is illuminated for an instant, we can see in this, during this life of leisure and endowment, what's right and what's wrong. And we can decide to follow a path of virtue and avoid non-virtue. But we have the great purpose of being able to achieve liberation in this very life, or enlightenment in this very life. It's possible through the practice of highest yoga tantra to achieve enlightenment in one lifetime, one short lifetime of this degenerate age. Through the lower tantras, one can achieve enlightenment in one elongated lifetime through the practice of those lower tantras. The Buddhist advised his disciples not to be satisfied with the lower vehicle, his lesser vehicle teachings, although he taught them how to achieve nirvana for oneself, but to put sincere effort into trying to generate this incredibly powerful mind of bodhicitta, which is the great creator of virtuous karma and the great destroyer of negative karma. And it allows us to get closer to achieving our own aim of enlightenment, where everything, where there's no problems whatsoever, and to achieve a state where we can emanate the two bodies, the Nirmanakaya and the Sambhogakaya, in order to benefit sentient beings. To do that, to achieve the state of enlightenment, to be able to achieve one's own aim and the aim of others. The aim of others here would be achieving the two bodies. We have to create the collections of merit and wisdom, which are explained in the Buddha's teachings in general, especially the collection of wisdom explained by Nagarjuna in his fundamental wisdom, expounded on by Aryadeva, Buddhapalita, and especially Chandrakirti in his Madhyamaka whose self-commentary, Lama Khapa, explained in more contemporary terms at that time in his Gompa Rapsal that we're studying. And we're trying to study that in terms of our contemporary mind, contemporary world in our class. I think the reason I'm going to participate in the class today is not only to satisfy my pride in understanding difficult points, or just to accumulate more information, but to accumulate these two collections of merit and wisdom for the purpose of transforming ourselves into the omniscient state where we can spontaneously and effortlessly, without error, lead all sentient beings out of the ocean of samsara into that very same state. All of this depends on feeling warmth towards sentient beings, even those who we disagree with or who are causing problems for us, which is easy to imagine now. But in our meditation, especially, if we can start from there, recognizing that those individuals have been our mother numberless times in the past, will be our mother again in the future, and they've been depthlessly kind to us, along with every other sentient being. Develop that heartwarming affection for them is a prerequisite to developing compassion and bodhicitta. So think, I'm going to participate today in order to achieve enlightenment by accumulating the two collections, listening, contemplating, and meditating on the material in order to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And then bring your attention back to the present. So I noticed Mikhail's head was tilted to his right, unless the camera is reversed. I remember some lamas mentioning, I think Geshe Darga used to say that Kepche Trijang Rinpoche's head usually looked like it was tilted to the left because he was emanation of Tara, Queen Tara. And so how are we doing? Anyone have any questions before we begin? Or observations about our meditation? Mikhail, what do you think?
Yeah, I have one question about this mental body of the nature of mind that Arya Bodhisattva acquire on the first ground.
Yeah,
I don't understand how the process works. I mean, on the last moment of the path of preparation, you're sitting in meditation and you have a physical body.
Yeah.
And the next moment, when you reach the first ground, poof, it vanishes, and you get a mind body.
Okay, so let's remind people what this is. What is this called? Does anyone know in Tibetan? Paul, do you know the Tibetan name is?
I'm drawing a blank, sorry.
Yiki Rangshin Gilo. Yi means mental consciousness. Yiki, ki is a genitive particle. Rangshin, that means what? Stephen, what does Rangshin mean? Nature.
Okay.
Bhavava. So that's a word that we run across again and again. Iki Rangshin Gi Lo, again genitive Gi. Lo is the term for awareness or consciousness. So it's a Iki Rangshin Gi. Oh no, not Lo. Iki Rangshin Gi Lu. Lu means body. Sorry, not Lo. Yiki Rangshin Gilu. So it means a body that has the nature of the mind. So that is said to be generated by a bodhisattva upon achieving the path of seeing. That means at the first instant of having direct realization of emptiness, direct realization. So that's what Mikhail is talking about, in case you were not following. So there are different ideas about this. Some scholars say that the bodhisattva's body, physical body, is at that point transformed into a mental body, and it looks the same and still has tactility and so forth, but it's the nature of the mind. When I questioned Yangtze Rinpoche about this many years ago at Deer Park. He said he thought personally, from not just his own idea, but from the various positions that were placed, that it doesn't replace the body, but it supplants. What's the word? It adds to. So you have not only a physical body, but a mental body. But that's something that will come up when we can investigate it in more detail on the resultant grounds, on the resultant ground. So the resultant ground is that they're the causal grounds, the causal bhumis are, the first through the 10th bhumi, and the resultant ground means the ground of Buddhahood. So the resultant ground is means talking about the different qualities of Buddhahood and the omniscient mind and everything. So there'll be more information about that there. So you can investigate that, Mikhail. What's your own feeling? Is it?
Yeah, because I started by I think maybe it's in the master program. Geshe Gelek said that matter about form cannot be the substantial cause of mind, right?
Yeah, we've said that. Yeah, we've said that many times, right?
Right. So that's why that being the case, how can your physical body transform in one moment into a mind?
Into the nature of mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something we have to think about, but we've got some time until the resultant ground to think about that. Okay.
I hear the term often, nature of mind.
Say
But
again.
what does that? I hear the term often, nature of mind, but I don't exactly know what it means. To say something is of nature of mind.
Oh, so we were meditating just a couple of minutes ago. We were meditating on the conventional nature of the mind. And so the mind has, any phenomena has two natures, a conventional nature and an ultimate nature. So the ultimate nature of all phenomena is their emptiness of true existence, emptiness of inherent existence. That's their ultimate nature. It's something which is,
So does that mean that mental body that has nature of mind is clear and knowing?
It means that there is a body created by the meditation on emptiness when the bodhisattvas achieve that first bhumi, path of seeing. They create, something is created by them. It's not that they create, they draw or something like that. They have a body which is of the nature of the mind, which is yeah. So it's an emanation, a body which is an emanation of their mind. So Shakyamuni Buddha was his body an emanation, or was his body the result of contaminated karma and and so forth? What do you think, KT, the Shakyamuni Buddha's body?
Well, I think there was the final realization at the Bodhi tree where maybe that final thin layer of conventionality ceased, or not conventionality, the final 10th bhumi shifted into the Buddha bodies post 10th bhumi. But then I've also heard that maybe it was all a play. It was all like the play. So maybe he was already enlightened and this was just all at play. So now I'm not sure of your question.
No, I don't know. Can you see that? That's
the voice of the Buddha.
That's the one of the books that we've been talking about, one of the texts, the Lalita Vistara.
Yeah, the Lalita Vistara. Thank
So,
you for having me
so
think.
the play of the Buddha. So it's the Mahayana in general, but especially the Prasangika say that that Shakyamuni Buddha was already enlightened. Is already enlightened. He was already enlightened when he was the regent in Tushita heaven, when the previous Buddha's teachings were still existing on earth, or when the previous Buddha came down, he became the regent in Tushita heaven. He was already enlightened eons ago. So it's only from the point of view of the lower schools, or sometimes called the common view, common between the lower schools and upper schools, that Buddha was an ordinary being at the beginning, and through his austerities and meditation and so forth, became enlightened under the Bodhi tree. That's from the Prasangika point of view, the Mahayana point of view. He was already enlightened, and he performed these actions, these enlightened activities, as a teaching for sentient beings, that they themselves could also do this. Those are called the 12 deeds, right? So his body is what's called, well, what kind of body did Shakyamuni Buddha demonstrate, or let's say emanate? Nadine.
The Nirmanakaya.
Nirmanakaya, an emanation body. It should have been obvious, but when I say what kind of body did he emanate? So that was what we saw was emanation body. Bodhisattvas, Arya Bodhisattvas can perceive the Buddha's Sambhogakaya. Ordinary beings can't perceive that directly, the Sambhogakaya. But the Buddha's body is an emanation. So you could draw blood from the Buddha. In fact, did anyone draw blood from the Buddha? Do you know, Stephen? Did anyone draw blood from the Buddha?
Was it Devadatta?
Devadatta sort of encourage Ajatashatru to kill the Buddha, to help him kill the Buddha, and Devadatta would then benefit Ajatashatru. So there was some apparent blood drawn from the Buddha. The Buddha took the aspect of having various physical maladies. He would seem to have a fever, so the monks could touch his body. So his body looked like it had tactility, but this was an emanation of his mind, and not a result of atoms and molecules and so forth that arose from a fertilized ovum in his mother's womb. He actually, what he presented was an actual emanation body. So the fact that the Buddha's emanation body could have this tactility, so this is a little bit in regard to what Mikhail was saying and what V was asking. Even though it's the nature of the mind, it could still have that tactility. You can say, for instance, if a person has single-pointed concentration, shine, they can emanate a mule, and you could put things on the mule that can carry it across the bridge, right? So emanations like that are of the nature of the mind. Would you say that an emanation like that is of the nature of the mind, Paul? It doesn't have any actual basis in atoms and molecules?
Sure.
So that can have, I could carry a load, so that has some kind of tactility. Okay, let's leave that for the time being. A good question. And one question I wanted to follow up on that Stephen raised in the discussion last Monday can you remind us, Stephen, what the question was that you asked originally?
Oh my God. I think we had quite a discursive conversation. I'm trying to
Right.
remember what the original question
I
was.
think you were asking.
It was related to one of the footnotes.
Okay, so you were
90.
asking. Let me. What I'm thinking you were asking. You correct me if I'm wrong. Is that George? Come on. It said that the Prasangika accepts an external world. Therefore, the object of imputation, say when we talk about the existence of phenomena, there are three things that are necessary. The basis of imputation, the dakshi, the imputation itself, the name that's being given to it, and the mind, which is imputing that name, right? Is that right, Mikhail?
Yeah, sure.
Nadine, you were in the discussion, right? Remember we talked about that. So Stephen was saying, so therefore the basis of designation exists out there before you impute the name upon it. And I suggested that that's not the case, that according to Prasangika, those three things, the basis of designation, the name that you give to that basis, that you designate, that you impute upon it, that you designate it. Designate and impute, I'm using as just synonyms, meaning the same thing, right? You designate or you impute or you name something. And the consciousness that gives those names, all three of them exist simultaneously, like the three legs. You can't see all my finger. There's a thumb there somewhere. Like a tripod, the three legs of a tripod are simultaneous with one another. Sort of like the idea of a tripod, we've mentioned several times before, is that it's not like one that's welded together or that you've used string to hold together. This kind of tripod, if you put two sticks together, they can prevent movement maybe in this plane, or they could tip over this way. So if you put a third one in there, that can form a tripod, and each of them relies upon the other two. In the same way, the consciousness that imputes a name is simultaneous and of the same nature as the name that it gives and the basis of designation, the basis of imputation. Did you get a chance to read that a little bit, Stephen, in the Genlan Rinpoche's book that I mentioned?
Yeah. And that book helped a little bit. I just kind of looked at the very last chapter, chapter 5, which talked about the Prasangika view. And yeah, so when you put it as a natural relationship, that kind of made more sense to me. And with the analogy of the tripod, that it isn't a causal relationship. So there's nothing that has to exist before in order to impute. But I'm still a little bit stuck because then, well, what really is out there? If we're
Yeah.
and if Mikhail wants to jump in, that's great.
So, Venerable, when you're saying that, questioning the fact that the basis of imputation exists out there before, are you referring to the fact that even the basis of imputation itself cannot be found in its own?
You said it does exist there. It doesn't exist there.
Yeah.
The base, you might think the basis of existence, the basis of imputation, logically, when you think about it, seems like it has to exist there first, and then you impute a name upon it. But the very process of perceiving something and then giving a name to it, at that point you're actually so let's say the basis of designation, the basis of the imputation comes into existence at that point. So you have to, it's very, very subtle. Again, this is something that we will talk about again later, but in answer to Stephen's question in the discussion on Monday, I thought I mentioned that. So one good source to have some information about that is the book, what is it called? Realizing Emptiness, that was written by Genlan Rinpa and edited by Alan Wallace, or translated by him from Genlan Rinpa's teachings. Do you have that book, Louise, in front of you? Can you put it up again? Yeah. There we go. Realizing Emptiness. So that's I recommend that very highly. Okay.
This is an older version.
It's an older version. Yeah, it even had another name, supplementary name to that. KT, what do you think?
Could we say then that this tripod of mind, basis, and name simultaneously happening in terms of omnipresent mental factors, then could we say that contact and discrimination are simultaneous? Like the contact of the object and then the discrimination as mental factors, are those simultaneous?
Okay, so here's another question. Let's see who wants to say this. Is this process of these three factors being simultaneous and of the same nature, the imputing mind, the basis of imputation, and the object imputed, those three we just talked about, that's from Prasangika view, they're simultaneous. What about the process of perception of the object? Isn't it true that there has to be the referent object condition and the what do we say, the sense the sense base? Let's say if you talk about an eye consciousness, there has to be a referent object condition like a rose, and the sense base, the faculty, which is a clear matter, let's say in our eye retina, and the previous moment of consciousness. Don't they have to have a causal relationship in Prasangika, or is that superseded by this simultaneity of the imputing mind, Paul? Are we talking about the same thing, or are there different situations?
Knew you were going to ask me. Please say the question again, Venerable George.
So we just went over the fact that the Prasangika accepts that these three elements that we just talked about are simultaneous. The mind that imputes a name, the basis of designation upon which it's designated or imputing that name,
right,
and the name that's imputed. Those three are simultaneous. It's not as though the basis of negation exists out there before you give the name to it.
right,
like existing out there, and then you add the name to it.
sure.
They're
Sure.
at the same time. But in the process of perception, is that the same as imputation? In the process of perception, doesn't the referent object condition have to exist prior? That we talk about that as being causal, a causal
Right.
relationship.
Sure. One would imagine that it would have to be.
Okay, so no more thoughts about that. Okay, so think about that. Seems a disparity. In one case, you're talking about three things being simultaneous, and in another situation, you're talking about three other things. They're not exactly the same things, but the referent object condition the consciousness that's going to perceive it, and the sense faculty, they don't exist, let's say, any particular consciousness that of a rose is generated after you have perceived the rose, right? After you've perceived the referent condition, or let's say the rose the rose at time one acts as a referent condition for the consciousness to arise at time two. So any consciousness of a rose that you have is always the consciousness of a rose of a previous instant.
Right.
So anyway, those two things are interesting to toss around in your discussion, in your own mental discussion with your own alter ego.
May I say something?
Who said that?
Me.
Oh, you. You say,
So B, I think Sean had his hands up to ask a question first.
oh yeah, let's get Sean first. Yeah, Sean.
Well, if you say that I mean, I'll get confused now, but if you say that the object and the imputation and the mind imputating it exist simultaneously, but the object is a different continuum of the mind perceiving the object, so how are they of the same nature?
Yeah. Okay. So that's something leave tantalizingly leave that seed in your mind. So hopefully it doesn't rot. And as we continue on, we will talk about that in more detail. B, very briefly, because we want to start class. What's your question?
Very briefly, the imputating mind is said to be a conceptual mind for Prasangika, whereas the generation of eye consciousness, sense consciousness, that's direct perception.
Right.
So they're different type of minds.
Yeah. So eccola is I think that's what the Italians say. Yeah. Something there. So something to think about. Okay. So we've applied some calamine lotion to your Dharma itch, and it may have been that you're allergic to that calamine lotion because now you've got more doubts coming up. So anyway, so let's continue. Today we're going to begin the section called "The Consequence That Conventional Truths Would Withstand Reasoned Analysis." Remember this, what we're talking about now is Chandrakirti's special section here in the Madhyamaka mirrored by Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on it, where Chandrakirti is pointing out these absurdities if you were to, especially countering Bhava Viveka and the Svatantrika view that phenomena exist conventionally. They inherently exist conventionally. That what that means is that if you analyze a phenomenon, the basis of designation, let's say, if you analyze that, somewhere in that basis of designation, you can find the actual object imputed. Does that make sense, Jeremy? Those words? Sorry, you nodded, so I guess that's okay.
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. There, if you press your space bar, sometimes that's a shortcut, depending on what version of okay, doesn't matter.
Yes, thank you, Venerable George. I understood.
Yeah, okay, so what time is it there?
Now it's 3:50 a.m.
Okay, so that's why
on
it's
Sunday.
Sunday.
That's why I'm a bit slow.
Okay, so so we already talked about one consequence that Chandrakirti mentioned, and we spent some time on that. Let's see, where is that? I have to go many, many pages back to find that. The consequence that an Arya's meditative equipoise would become the cause for the destruction of things, right? Remember, we had many quotes about different things about that. Now we're at the second of the three consequences, the consequence that conventional truths would withstand reasoned analysis. Okay, so in Thupten Jinpa's text, this is, oh, I don't have the page number. What's the page number, anyone?
Page 264.
264 in Jinpa and 140, the bottom of 145 in Venerable Jones' translation. That's the FPMT translation. Okay, so in Jinpa's translation, it says, the commentary says, so Lama Tsong now is quoting a passage from the Basham, Chandrakirti's auto commentary. Here, some assert the following, quote, it is logical that since there is no arising on the ultimate level, and so this would be Svatantrika position, right? There's no arising on the ultimate level. It is logical that since there's no arising on the ultimate level, arising from self and other are negated, implied ultimately. Nonetheless, insofar as the nature of form, feeling, and so on, perceived by the two kinds of valid cognition are concerned, these will arise without doubt from something that is other. For if one does not accept this, how can one speak of the two truths? There will be only one truth. Therefore, they say, arising from others does exist. So what Chandrakirti was saying is that from the Svatantrika position, you would say that there is arising from other on the conventional level, right? Although it doesn't exist ultimately, they would say there's no, ultimately there's no true existence. Ultimately, there's no inherent existence. But on the conventional level, there is an inherent existence, and that inherent existence of phenomena are produced from other, an inherently existent other. If they don't say that explicitly, you could throw consequences at them of their positions that indicate that that's what they're accepting ultimately. Is it making sense so far? KT? Are you with us?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. They're saying arising from other is not rejected on the conventional level.
Or
It's,
Svatantrika?
yes, force-fed time, but the Prasangika viewpoint is, yes, it is rejected on the conventional level.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. We, Prasangika. Okay. Doris, was it just saying that you understood, or that you wanted to say something?
No, just indicating that I happen to be following.
You grokked to that. Okay.
We did.
Okay. Nadine, you following? Okay. So that's a passage from the Basham, from Chandrakirti's auto commentary. So now Lama Tsong Khapa is going to comment on that. He says, through Jinpa's translation, those who argue in the above manner, given that they appear to accept the absence of arising on the ultimate level, there's no arising on the ultimate level, whether from self, other, both, or neither, and so forth. They do accept the absence of arising on the ultimate level, but assert arising from other on the conventional level. Those who argue that are certain Svatantrika Madhyamikas. Their assertion, quote, if arising from other in terms of intrinsic arising does not exist on the conventional level, there will then be only one truth, is intended to suggest that if there is no arising by virtue of intrinsic characteristic, another way of saying inherent existence, it's a hypothetical synonym. It's not just translating the same word that we translate as inherent existence, but it's another hypothetical synonym of that. It's intended to suggest that if there is no arising by virtue of intrinsic characteristic on the conventional level, conventional truth will have no reality. This is what they're intending to say. Since conventional truth would be untenable, would be unrealistic, would not exist, there would only be ultimate truth. Okay. So my hope is always that you'll read ahead and that you had encountered this before, but some of you with you may have not had a chance to prepare, but does this make sense? Stephen, is it okay for you? How about you, Paul? Have you, yeah? Those who argue in the above manner, given that they appear to accept the absence of arising on the ultimate level, they appear to accept. Is that how Venerable Joan translated it? Seeming to, yeah. So the Tibetan Ditadrowa, Goa means sort of like the person you're debating with. I think she translates it here, challenger. And Chimpa translates that as, it doesn't translate as those who argue in the above manner. Okay, I don't see immediately the Tibetan. But anyway, those who argue in the above manner, given that they appear to accept the absence of arising on the ultimate level, they state explicitly that there's no arising on the ultimate level. Because they are Madhyamikas. They accept, Bhavaviveka accepted Nagarjuna as the perfect explainer of the Buddhist teachings about emptiness, but he had a different interpretation of what Nagarjuna was saying. So they appear to accept the absence of arising on the ultimate level, but assert arising from other on the conventional level. So conventionally, phenomena do arise inherently, and that arising inherently has to be from other, because it's not from self, it's not from both self and other, and it's not causeless. Their assertion, if arising from other in terms of intrinsic arising, inherent arising, if it does not exist on the conventional level, there will then be only one truth. That statement is intended to suggest that if there is no arising by virtue of inherent existence, an intrinsic characteristic, on the conventional level, conventional truth will have no reality. Why is that? Louise, why would conventional truth have no reality?
Sorry, Venerable George. I just found where you're reading from. I'm
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
a little lost.
Yeah. Okay. So their position, Svatantrika position, is that phenomena do arise inherently or by virtue of intrinsic characteristic, as Jempa translates here. And that second fact, that arisal is one that arises from other, something which is inherently other, which is other by its own intrinsic characteristic, or like its own is intrinsic. It arises from something which is other by intrinsic characteristic. Prasangika would say that that eventually we will get to the point where Prasangika is explaining that it does accept arising from a conventionally existent other, merely imputed other, not something which is intrinsically or inherently other. If two things are inherently different from one another, if they're inherently other, they would have to exist inherently, and they would have no relationship with one another. So there are many faults that we talked about before, and we will talk about it again. So this is intended to suggest that the statement that some kind of Svatantrikas would be saying, it may not have been Bhava Viveka, but other Svatantrikas, if arising from other by means of intrinsic arising does not exist on the conventional level, then there can only be one truth. So that means their point is that if there's no arising from other on the conventional level, conventional truth will have no reality. Or as Venerable Jones says, his saying, if inherently produced production from other is not asserted conventionally, this is just a rephrasing of it, there would be only one truth. That means if there is no production by way of its own character conventionally, real conventionalities would not exist. If there is no production by way of its own character conventionally, real conventionalities would not exist. They say, kunso dempa misipe, dondam dempa chikyur yur shebe dono. So it's just saying that at that time, conventional truths would be untenable. There would only be the ultimate truth. Okay, you were following? So what does Prasangika say? So in response, so that first of all, we had the statement from the auto commentary, Lama Tsongkhapa's explanation of that. Now again, from the auto commentary, Chandrakirti answers that qualm, right? That if there wasn't conventional arising inherently, that there'd only be one truth. That's what the Svatantrikas are trying to say. So Lama Tsongkhapa says, you are right, according to Jimpa's translation. Venerable Jones says, indeed, it is true. From the point of view of ultimate truth, there are not two truths. So the statement before was the end point was conventional truth would be untenable. There would only be one there would only be the ultimate truth. There would only be one truth. And they're saying that's not right. So the Prasangika, Chandrakirti, is saying, that's right. From the point of view of ultimate truth, there are not two truths. What does that mean, Stephen?
Well, from the point of view, if you've done ultimate analysis, you're seeing ultimate truth, you don't see anything else. There are no conventionalities that appear.
Right. And so because there's no conventionalities, there's no conventional truth that's appearing to you. As Nadine likes to remember, the supreme seeing is not seeing. Remember these quotation from many sutras and also from the songs of the Mahasiddhas. So what that means in meditative equipoise on emptiness, there's no appearance of conventionalities. So you are right. From the point of view of ultimate truth, there are not two truths. For we find statements such as the following: O monks, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. It is nirvana, a reality that is non-deceptive. All conditioned things are false and deceptive. So that's a quotation from the Bhasham. Jimpa's note 495 just tells you the Tibetan page number of that, if you want to look it up. It doesn't give any more commentary. So Venerable Joan translates that as following. In response to this objection in the auto commentary, Chandrakirti says, indeed, it is true for the ultimate truth. Let's say, indeed, it is true because for the ultimate, there does not exist two truths, because the Buddha said, she's putting in brackets that the Buddha said this, monks, the ultimate truth is one. Ultimate truth is one. It is thus the non-deceptive substratum is nirvana. All composites are false and deceptive substrata. Okay, so that's the starting to use words that make it less clear, but some reason for translating that way. So where does that quote come from? Doesn't say here. Michael.
I searched for it, but I only found bits of it. So I think it's paraphrasing one of the Prajnaparamita Sutras.
Yeah.
I didn't find the whole quote exactly as it is, but bits of it.
In the translation of the Madhyamaka by the group in Oslo, in their translation, they have a note on there at that place, and they said, we haven't been able to find the source of this quotation. So it is quoted in one or two texts that are commentaries. It's quoted in the Prasanapada, the clearly worded, as is quite difficult to read. So not everyone agrees that it's clearly worded. But anyway, the famous commentary by Chandrakirti himself, that's commenting on the fundamental wisdom, same as Madhyamaka is commenting, but that's a word commentary. It's quoted there. It's also quoted in one of the texts to the Bodhisattvacharya Vatara. What would it be, Paul? Prajna Karamati, something like that. Is that the name of one of the?
Of which one, Venerable George?
Of the Bodhisattvacharya Vatara.
Prajna Karamati. Yes.
So it's you won't find it in that text, Louise, that she was holding up the translation, but it's in the commentary to that by a particular Indian author, quotes this also. Sometimes they have more lines. So in the It's also in the commentary to the Rikpa Drukchupa. Maybe the next quote is in the commentary to Bodhisattva Charyavatara. Maybe this one is not. This is also quoted in the commentary, Chandrakirti's commentary to the 60 stanzas on reasoning, which is called the Rikpa Drukchupa. Okay, so that explains why Mikhail wasn't able to find it in one of the sutras. If you search, it's probably there somewhere. It may be that there, as Mikhail is saying, that it's paraphrasing some of the sutras. B, what are you thinking?
It seems to me this is a long-standing problem I have. Whenever I hear about any text or people talking about ultimate, there's oftentimes a confusion for me.
Talking about what? Talking about what?
When they talk about the ultimate.
Oh, ultimate.
Yeah. There's a confusion for me whether they are referring to the emptiness or the basis of the emptiness.
So you have to go back and listen to some of the previous lectures to catch up a little bit, to get a little bit better background. But basically, the ultimate, or let's say in the ultimate, sometimes it says, or ultimately, what that means is the state of mind, the ultimate mind that is perceiving reality when it's in meditative equipoise on emptiness. It means in meditative equipoise. Ultimately, in that, there are no other phenomena appearing. So what is the ultimate? What is the ultimate truth? Well, let me ask. Nadine, what is the?
But that mind that is perceiving.
No, B. I'm asking Nadine to help you to understand. Nadine, what is the ultimate truth?
Suchness, emptiness.
Yeah. So the ultimate truth is emptiness. So when we talk about ultimate, I'm not sure if we just use the word ultimate without adding truth, but we do talk about ultimately, or let's say in the ultimate. What that means is in the meditative equipoise on emptiness, in the ultimate, because that state of mind is perceiving ultimate truth. So that is said to be the ultimate. So conventional phenomena, as a ultimate truth and conventional truths are the two truths. The Buddha taught many times there are two truths, ultimate truth and conventional truth. All, let's say, he said, I'm sorry, he said that all phenomena have two natures, their ultimate truth and their conventional truth. Every phenomena has both of them, and they are simultaneous. They're of one nature, like two sides of the same coin. The ultimate truth of something, its emptiness, and the conventional truth. My fingers are very pink.
In this passage.
Yet here it's saying there is only one truth from the Prasangika point of view, ultimately. So what does that mean? What does truth mean for the Prasangika? Kateen, do you remember the defining characteristic of truth for Prasangika? No.
Sorry, my left side freezes sometimes when I try to unmute, but anyway, the defining characteristic of truth.
What is truth according to Prasangika?
Truth is the wisdom realizing emptiness. Is that correct? I mean, now I feel like
No, it's something more fundamental. Stephen, what is defining characteristic of truth?
It's when something appears exactly as it exists.
Right. So if something is
Ultimate truth.
non-deceptive, it would be called true. So when you look at the car dealer who's smiling and telling you what a good deal you're getting, that is not necessarily true because that could be deceptive, right? But if something exists the way that it appears, it is said to be true. So from the point of view of Prasangika, there's only one truth. Is that your wife, Jeremy?
That's my mom.
Oh, your mom. You woke her up. Oh, 3 o'clock in the morning. Sorry. So from the Prasangika point of view, what are conventional truths true, Sean?
They're true for ordinary people, but not ultimately true.
Yeah, they're true for a concealing mind. They're true for a samvriti. They are samvriti satya. Samvriti is what we say Tibetan kunsop. That means obscuring or obscurational, or how else is that translated, Paul? Kunsop in that text. Obscuration.
Well, I think Jeffrey changed it. It was conventional truth, obscurational truth, truth for a concealed consciousness,
Right.
truth for an obscured consciousness.
Say kunsop. So truth for concealed consciousness, one that is still under the influence of ignorance. So from that point of view, conventional truths are not true because they don't exist the way that they appear. How do they appear, Stephen?
Well, they appear deceptively, and so they appear as if they were inherently existent.
Exactly. But they are not, they are actually empty of inherent existence. So the mode of appearance doesn't accord with the mode of existence of those objects. They're actually empty of that. So they are not truths, technically, from Prasangika point of view. So when the Buddha talked about two truths, that's talking about something you have to stand back and get the context of it. So let's look at this again. So this the Svatantrika this debater here, theoretical debater, is saying that if you don't accept inherent production, there'd only be one truth. So Chandrakirti says, yeah, actually, that's right. There is only one truth. From the point of view of ultimate truth, there are not two truths. For we find statements such as the following: O monks, bhikshu, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. So that's an important statement. Some of the quotations, if you check various sutras, doesn't have the word one in there. It just says the ultimate is nirvana. But here it says, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. It is nirvana, a reality that is not deceptive. All conditioned things, so that would mean all conventional things, are false and deceptive. Are all conventionalities conditioned things, Paul?
Are all conventionalities conditioned? Yes, if since they would have to exist, therefore they would be conditioned.
So you don't have uncompounded space?
Uncompounded space does exist, but
Is it an ultimate or a conventional phenomenon?
It is a conventional phenomenon, but it is
conditioned.
It's not conditioned, but it is.
You know the rest of the class. You know what condition means? It means arising due to causes and conditions, having conditions. Sort of, in other words, impermanent. So I'm just posing here whether that includes everything. Maybe there's a different way of understanding that. Because it says, what did it say there? O monks, this truth, the ultimate, is singular, is only one. It is nirvana. That means because it is also, this can be used as a source for the statement that for Prasangika, nirvana is an emptiness because it is an ultimate truth. O monks, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. It is nirvana, a reality that is not deceptive, non-deceptive. So it exists the way that it appears. All conditioned things are false and deceptive. So anyway, something to think about. Let's see here. So this quotation, as I said, can be found in the Prasanapada and in the commentary by Chandrakirti to the 60 stanzas on reasoning. So, okay, so that was the statement in the Bhasham. So Lama Tsongkhapa now is going to explain that. So this is kind of the reason why Lama Tsongkhapa wrote this commentary, because at the time of Chandrakirti and when he wrote that, many of these statements were currently understandable. It's just like the Bodhisattvas who attended the Buddhist teachings on emptiness. When he said form is empty, emptiness and form, and so forth and so on, they already knew this, if they're Arya Bodhisattvas and so forth, but and they understood the implication of the various words he was using. Later, we need, because we're not Arya Bodhisattvas who had a continuity of teachings on emptiness in many, many previous lives that they can call on that memory. It's because memory of what's called the stream of Dharma that they have had for a long time, remembering all the Dharma teachers they had. We're not privy to that, so we need to have things explained to us in our present millennia, our present time. At Lama Tsongkhapa's time, he needed to explain this. So he said, the meaning of these statements is this: given that non-deceptiveness is what is meant by truth. Okay, so that's what we just talked about. That's a given. That's a Prasangika point of view. We can put it the other way. Truth is that which is not deceptive, right? Non-deceptiveness is what is meant by truth. A view Chandrakirti himself upholds. Given that, it is true that ultimate truth alone is true in the sense of being non-deceptive. Right? Sean, you found it?
Well, I'm still stuck on the unconditioned phenomenon because it seems like that would also have to be deceptive. Otherwise, it would be an ultimate truth.
So we'll leave that for the time being. See if you can use the ability that you had in meditating on the breath and on the nature of the mind to let go of other thoughts, right? Those are disturbing thoughts. So now when you're trying to analyze it, you're still stuck on this other one. Leave that for the time being. We will rectify that in the future. Okay, so right now, here it's saying that Chandrakirti himself upholds that the meaning of truth is that which is not deceptive. So Chandrakirti himself upholds, it is true that ultimate truth alone is true in the sense of being non-deceptive. Ultimate truth. Right? Ultimate truth. So conventional truth is deceptive. because that quotation says, "O monks, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. It is nirvana, a reality that is not deceptive, non-deceptive. All conditioned things, on the other hand, are false and deceptive." So Chandrakirti responds, therefore, you are right, or that's true, that there would only be one truth. The phrase, "from the point of view of ultimate truth," indicates that within the perspective of seeing suchness, so be here when it says "from the point of view of ultimate truth," what that means is dondan dempar. Ultimately, that means in that meditative equipoise, indicates that within the perspective of seeing suchness, suchness means emptiness, there is no duality of conventional and ultimate truth. That's another way of saying conventionalities don't appear. There's no dual appearance. Within such a perspective, the Buddha has spoken of only the ultimate truth. The truth that is ultimate, the truth that is ultimate is to the ultimate truth. Does that make sense? Nadine read ahead and she said, okay, so how does Venerable Joan translate that? The highest truth is the ultimate truth. So Jimpa had said here, within such a perspective, the Buddha has often spoken, has spoken of only the ultimate truth. The truth that is ultimate is to the ultimate truth. What does he mean there? So Venerable Jones says, the highest truth. So instead of saying the ultimate truth is the ultimate, you can say, or you can say the ultimate truth is the ultimate truth, the highest truth, because so when we talk about conventional truths, remember the Tibetan and the Sanskrit. The Tibetan is samvriti satya, and the Tibetan is kunsop dempa. Dempa means true, like the Sanskrit satya. So what is ultimate truth? Do you know, Mikhail, the Tibetan of ultimate truth?
Yeah, excellent, excellent or highest, yeah.
What is it in Tibetan, the Tibetan words?
Dampa.
Ultimate truth. Ultimate truth.
Dampa.
That's just, Dundamba is just ultimate.
Oh, sorry.
Dundam Dempa.
Dempa, yeah.
Dempa means true, right? So we have Samvriti Satya, we have Kunsop Dempa and Dundam Dempa. So you can translate, Dundam is what's being translated sometimes as ultimate. So what does that mean? Etymologically in Tibetan, it means, Don means object, and Dam means what, Paul?
Like holy or highest or something.
Highest is probably of the choices. Yeah, sometimes my Lama Dampa means holy Lama, but Dampa also means highest. So as Joan translates here, the highest truth, so that would be Dondam Dempa, is the ultimate truth, highest meaning truth. That conventional truths do not exist in the perspective of that exalted wisdom is to be understood through the Buddha's the quotation that we had, saying that they are non-deceptive substrata.
Just the deceptive, Venerable George. I think it's deceptive substrata.
Oh, it's a deceptive, right? Conventional. That so Jimpa translates that within such a perspective, there the fact that within such a perspective like that, there exists no conventional truth can be understood by the statement that conditioned things are false and deceptive. Okay, so still leaving Sean's qualm, why it doesn't have unconditioned things that are still conventional truths, why it doesn't mention that. So you have to bear the burden of keeping that qualm in your mind, Sean. Okay. So are we following? How is it doing? Louise, how are you? Making sense? Yeah. Nadine? Yeah. So I'm not sure what I have to go back and look at that particular sentence in Jimpa where he says, the truth that is ultimate is to the ultimate truth. That sentence needs another word or some change to it. What, Paul? What do you think?
Yeah, I think something must have gotten lost in the editorial process in that sentence, because that doesn't make sense to me either.
Right. So weren't you one of the editors?
I was not I was a proofer,
Okay.
which
I
obviously.
will tease you about that when we find errors.
Yes, no.
Okay. So
and I didn't catch that one. So
okay. So okay. So that's sort of clear. Now, to summarize, Jimba's translation continues of Lama Tsongkhapa. To summarize the meaning of the above commentary passage. So those are usually called citations when you cite from some other text. So Lama Tsongkhapa is citing from the Bhasham, from Chandrakirti's Bhasham, right? So to summarize the meaning of those citations, it would be this. Were it the fact that were phenomena to exist by virtue of their intrinsic characteristics, or you could say if phenomena were inherently existing, conditioned things would not be established as false and deceptive. Is that right? What does that mean, Nadine?
If phenomena would possess inherent characteristics, then one would be able to find them. And they would exist in accordance with how they appear.
They would not be false and deceptive.
Yeah, because one would find them.
Yeah, right. They would be true, right. They would exist the way that they're appearing. They appear to be inherently existing. Oh, yeah. For the Svatantrika, do phenomena appear to be inherently existing? Nadine is nodding. Mikhail, I didn't see. Yeah, for Svatantrika, do phenomena appear to be truly existing? No, that's something we've talked about. So for Svatantrika, they don't appear to be truly existing. That's something that the mind imputes upon them, but they do appear to be inherently existing, and because they are, according to Svatantrika, but they don't appear the appearance of true existence for them. For Svatantrika, therefore, true existence and inherent existence are different, right? They're not the same thing, because phenomena do appear to be inherently existent, but they don't appear to be truly existent. Okay, so let's continue. To summarize the meaning of that citation, were phenomena to exist by virtue of their intrinsic characteristics, conditioned things would not be established as false and deceptive. It's just, again, almost double negative in a sense. If you talk about false and deceptive as being negative concepts, they would be established as true, because that would be the way that they exist. And without conventional truth, because it wouldn't be false and deceptive, and without conventional truth, there would be no two truths. Is that making sense? Were phenomena to exist by which, so if they were inherently existent, they wouldn't be false and deceptive, so that they would be true. And without conventional truth, there would be no true truths. What's the connection there?
Because if those conventional truths are true, that they're ultimate truths, and then there would be no conventional truth left.
Right, right. If they were actually non-deceptive, which the Buddha said is the only thing that is true, is that which is non-deceptive. That's kind of the deciding characteristic of what's true. If they were inherently existent, they would not be false and deceptive. And they would be ultimate truths, and there would only be one truth. In contrast, or on the other hand, when there is no existence by virtue of intrinsic existence, or say, on the other hand, since there's no inherent existence, both conventional truth and ultimate truth become possible, because the conventional truth would not necessarily be non-deceptive. It's truth for a concealing mind, that samvriti satya. Someone had their hand up a moment ago. Who was? Someone had a question? Yeah, Nadine.
I wanted to say the same as Sean was saying. Conventional truth would become ultimate truth.
Okay. So as we've been talking about this, has anyone come up with a solution to Sean's enigma? Why the Buddha talked about all conditioned things rather than talking about all things? What do you say? All conditioned things are false and deceptive. Why was he talking about that? Why didn't he say all things or all phenomena? Usually things, the way that we
if he had
translate.
said all conventional things, then
It says all conditioned things.
oh no, if it said all conventional things, it would encompass the unconditioned.
Right. So why does it say all? Why does it say only all conditioned things? So what's the context we're talking about here? We're talking about production, right? Refuting production. Are unconditioned things produced? No. So there's no need to talk about. So here's say all conditioned things are false and deceptive. Does that help with your qualm? Okay. So continuing in Thupten Jinpa's text, I'll just read this and then we'll take a little break. This next little partial paragraph. Based on the sutra citation above that states that nirvana alone is true, while other conditioned phenomena are false, the way that that's phrased, it almost sounds like nirvana is a conditioned phenomena, because it states that nirvana alone is true while other conditioned phenomena are false. That's not what's meant here. Let's see. So in Jones' translation, it takes this statement as being another question that's going to or qualm. If, according to the scripture above, nirvana alone is true or truth, since the Buddha said that other composites are false, she also translates it that way. So I have a question about that. I think what it means is others, and then explaining what others means, the conditioned phenomena. Anyway, based on that sutra citation above that states that nirvana alone is true, while others, conditioned phenomena, are false, the thought might arise that although conditioned phenomena do not exist by virtue of their intrinsic characteristics. You know, they don't exist by way of inherent existence. Nirvana, the ultimate truth, must exist by virtue of its own intrinsic characteristic. Okay, so we can take a little break. If you stop the recording. Okay, we had some juicy discussions. Hopefully everyone's back. Yeah, it looks like everyone's back.
I think Mintu has a question.
Oh, Mintu. Yeah, Mintu. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can I ask questions?
Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah, so so I have a question. So sometimes in some of these Buddhist texts, there's a concept of nama rupa, like name and form. So basically, it's talk about like the stream of nama rupa, or the name and form streams. So can you explain? Have you heard of this concept before? Like, can you explain what it means?
Of course, yeah. So nama means name, not surprisingly, in Sanskrit. Rupa means form, usually. So in the 12 links, do you know the 12 links, Mintovo?
Yes.
So is there one link called Nama Rupa?
I don't recall. I think there is, but I don't recall.
So what is the first link is ignorance. As a consequence of that, or not because due to the presence of ignorance, due to the condition of ignorance, there are karmic formations, right? Due to the condition of karmic formations, there's an imprint planted in the consciousness. Third link is consciousness. Due to the condition of consciousness, there is what?
Consciousness, there's volitions.
What?
Volitions.
No. Stephen, due to the condition of consciousness in the 12 links, what is the next? What is the
name and form?
Name and form, nama rupa. So nama rupa is just another synonym for rebirth. Okay. So what does that mean? Once someone has been reborn, they have some physical aggregate, like the form aggregate of the 5 aggregates. They have to have some form aggregate, even if it's subtle, like the first instant of an embryo. But still it's a fertilized egg at that point when the consciousness enters. So it has some form aggregate. That's the rupa, and the nama means the name that you give to that. You can also refer to the other 4 of the 5 aggregates. Okay, so let's continue on. So, so I just read this before. Based on the sutra citation above that states that nirvana alone is true, while others, comma, conditioned phenomena, comma, are false. That's how I'm reading that, because it's not that nirvana is a conditioned phenomena. The thought might arise that although conditioned phenomena do not exist by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic, nirvana, the ultimate truth, must exist by virtue of its own intrinsic characteristic. Why does that follow in their mind? Mikhail, what do you think?
I think they are saying that because the nirvana is the ultimate truth, it exists ultimately.
Yeah, but why would that mean that it must exist by virtue of its own intrinsic characteristic, or let's say by virtue of inherent existence? Why would it have to be inherently existent for them?
Because what exists by virtue of own characteristic is true, and so must be
And the
an ultimate
citation
truth.
above that states that nirvana alone is true, while the others, conventional conditioned phenomena, are false. The thought might arise that although conditioned phenomena do not exist inherently, would say. Okay, this is sort of follow. They say, okay, if we accept, let's say the lower schools would say, if we accept that, you Prasangika are pressing us that conditioned things are not inherently existent, still nirvana, ultimate truth, must exist by virtue of its own intrinsic characteristic, must exist inherently. Why? Why would that be a consequence?
For them, if something doesn't inherently exist, then there's going to be nothing that exists. So if the ultimate doesn't also inherently exist, then nothing would exist.
It said, however, it said here, the thought might, it says, conditioned phenomena are false. The thought might arise that although conditioned phenomena do not exist inherently, so that would, by your reasoning, that would mean that conditioned phenomena don't exist at all because they don't exist inherently.
That was their argument originally.
They do say that conditioned phenomena. Okay, yeah. This is if we press them to say that that conventional phenomena or the conditioned phenomena that are conventionalities, we say that they are not inherently existent. So he's saying since they do not exist by virtue of their intrinsic characteristic, nirvana must exist by virtue of its own intrinsic characteristic, must exist inherently. Does that make sense, Nadine?
I could not follow now. I'm sorry. I didn't understand it.
Yeah. So Lama Tsongkhapa is trying to get the import of this citation from the commentary. So the commentary said, in Jimba's translation, you were right. From the point of view of ultimate truth, there are not true truths. There's only one. For we find statements such as the following. O bhikshus, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. Or you could say, leave off the word this. Truth is the ultimate, and it is unique. There is only one truth. It is nirvana. On the other hand, you see, it is nirvana, a reality that is non-deceptive. So it's not saying non-deceptive only applies to nirvana, but it means ultimate truth, which is singular, unique, you might say, is non-deceptive. It exists the way that it appears. How does emptiness appear, Stephen?
Well, it appears as a vacuity, an absence.
It appears in
negation.
meditative equipoise. Yeah. In post meditation, it doesn't appear that way. But anyway, in meditation, it appears to be empty of inherent existence. And how does it exist, Stephen?
How does it exist?
What's its mode of existence? Emptiness.
Well, again, it's a mere negation. I think maybe I'm missing the point of your question, Venerable.
So generally, truth means that which.
Oh yeah, it exists as it appears. It appears.
Go on.
It appears as it exists, and vice versa.
So it appears to be lacking inherent existence, and that is indeed how it exists. It is empty of inherent existence, emptiness. Okay, so, O monks, this truth, the ultimate, is only one. It is nirvana, a reality that is non-deceptive. All conditioned things are false and deceptive. So that last phrase that I think Nadine was asking about, or was still not clear, based on this sutra citation above that we just read, that states that nirvana alone is true. So it's the one truth, while the others, that which is not nirvana, and which are not ultimate truths, conditioned phenomena are false. The thought might arise that although conditioned phenomena do not exist inherently, okay, we'll give you that. Nirvana, the ultimate truth, must exist inherently, because I think, as someone said, if it didn't exist inherently, it wouldn't exist at all. It's still mixing up, lower tenets still mixing up the meanings here. Making sense? A little clearer? So then Jimba's translation continues, but the sutra itself defines truth, being referred to here in terms of non-deceptiveness, not in terms of existing by virtue of intrinsic characteristic. So, the lower tenets are saying, if it doesn't exist inherently, it's not true. But the quotation doesn't define true in terms of being inherently existent. That's not the Prasangika position at all. Phenomena that are theoretically inherently existent, inherent existence doesn't exist, but if they were to be inherently existent, for Prasangika, they would not be true. They would be false. Anyway, so the sutra here, the sutra itself defines truth, being referred to here in terms of non-deceptiveness. That's what is the defining characteristic of what is true. For the lower tenets, their definition or their kind of meaning of what is true is that which really exists there, that can be found, that's inherently existent, or existing by virtue of intrinsic characteristic. Okay?
Well, and also that or the Svatantrika, they claim that the conventional things inherently existed, and it's not deceptive.
Right. Right. But here, I'm not sure they say is non-deceptive.
Well, it's not mistaken is how they say it. It's not a mistaken conception.
Non-deceptive and mistaken are different minds. So when we studied low-rig, mind and awareness and so forth, something which is mistaken, you can have mistaken minds that are still non-deceptive.
But they are equating mistaken with non-deceptive.
Seems like, yeah. Okay, good point. So let's go back. But the sutra itself defines truth, being referred to here in terms of non-deceptiveness. Something is true if it's non-deceptive, the fact that it exists the way that it appears, not in terms of something being inherently existent. That's how the lower schools would like to say something is true if it's inherently existent. If it doesn't inherently exist, man, it doesn't exist. It's not true. Come on. That's what they would be saying. Furthermore, still talking about that citation, the statement that, quote, all conditioned things are false and deceptive, also, too, we can infer from that statement, all conditioned things are false and deceptive, we can infer the meaning of truth in the sutra citation as that of non-deceptiveness. So there's two ways of saying that that's what truth means. That which is true is that which is non-deceptive. It doesn't deceive you. The way that it appears is the way that it exists. Or what was the Microsoft days or the laser printer days, Paul? What was it? What you see is what you get. What is it?
A WYSIWYG.
WYSIWYG, yeah, yeah. So they accorded with one another. Before that, on your screen of your computer, it would look nicely composed. And then when you printed it, it didn't look like that. But then when the laser printer came out and the new fonts came out, what you see on your screen is what you get when you print it on your laser printer, something like that. Okay. So continuing, how are we doing? Jeremy, you need a heater in the room. Sorry, you look like you've got a blanket around your shoulders.
Yeah, getting a bit cold down here.
Okay.
We're going into winter.
Yeah, oh, that's right. We're approaching spring here. So continuing in Jinpa's translation, in his commentary, again, that means Chandrakirti's Bhashyam. Oh, no. In his commentary on the 60 stanzas, so there was a quotation, did we already have that? I guess this is talking about a quotation that's coming up, I think, right? Let's see.
I believe, Venerable George, I believe the reference is that the sutra quote that we saw above is also quoted in Chandrakirti's commentary on the 60 stanzas.
Right, okay, thank you. So, yeah, I didn't read far enough there. In his commentary on the 60 stanzas too, Chandrakirti, so Chandrakirti wrote the commentary on Nagarjuna's 60 stanzas on reasoning. In his commentary to that, Chandrakirti explains how, unlike conditioned phenomena, again, so it's not thinking about conventional phenomena, conditioned phenomena which deceive childish beings, and you shouldn't feel deprecated by Chandrakirti. He's saying we're childish. Well, it's just the term that's meant for, well, you could translate it also as naive and philosophically naive. Unlike conditioned phenomena which deceive philosophically naive beings through appearing in a false manner, they appear to be inherently existent, but they're not. Nirvana does not deceive beings by appearing thus. So it's non-deceptive. Hence he explains that nirvana is said to be true while others remain untrue. So he has a note there, 496, and then he's just quoting the commentary on the 60 stanzas by Chandrakirti. If you look at the end of Jinpa's notes there, Yukti Shastika Riti. I mangled that anyway. Okay. So making sense so far? Okay. So then the distinction between truth and untruth, or we could say truth and falsity, here must therefore be drawn in the sense of being non-deceptive, that which is true, and deceptive, that which is untrue or false. Okay. Chandrakirti's commentary on the 60 stanzas, in another part of that commentary, elsewhere, makes a statement to the effect that nirvana is true on the conventional level. So this is one of the things that will drive Sean batty. I'm sure you know. So this note 497, Jinpa notes that this is on a different page of the Tibetan, of the Yeah, I guess this is talking about the Tibetan text of that commentary by Chandrakirti. So Khapa is probably referring here to Chandrakirti's commentary on stanzas 7 and 8 of Nagarjuna's 60 stanzas of reasoning. That's note 497. So that note 497 comes just at that point where we said Chandrakirti's commentary on the 60 stanzas elsewhere on another page makes a statement to the effect that nirvana is true on the conventional level. So if nirvana is an emptiness, is the ultimate truth, how could it be true on the conventional level, Stephen?
Well, I would say it can't, because an ultimate truth isn't true conventionally.
Yeah. So you're saying that Chandrakirti messed up bigly.
Yeah, it must have been the one error he missed.
His proofreader didn't know. So
He had Paul proofing it.
Oh, come on.
Well, so if, I mean, you could have a valid cognition of nirvana, just the concept of nirvana. You could have a valid cognition of it. So in that sense, it would be a conventional truth.
Well, the direct perception of it is a valid cognition, right?
Yes.
You're talking about in post-meditation.
Yes.
Just like we're doing now. We're thinking about nirvana. Oh, what's nirvana like? It's like this. It's like emptiness. So that is, yeah. So I think that's what's getting at. So it explains here after that, there, the meaning, which we're trying to get here, is that nirvana's status as an ultimate truth is to be posited from the perspective of conventional truth. When you're in meditative equipoise, realizing emptiness. So do all Arya beings, let's say, do all beings who realize emptiness, are they realizing nirvana? Paul?
No. Well, the nirvana of the lower schools.
Well, here it says the meaning of nirvana's status as an ultimate truth. So nirvana is an ultimate truth, right? So when you realize ultimate truth, are you realizing nirvana? Stephen thinks you are.
I think you are, because there's no differentiation in emptiness.
So what does
Nirvana
nirvana
is a
mean?
cessation. A cessation is an emptiness. If you're realizing emptiness, you're realizing emptiness, period.
So from the Prasangika point of view, which will be becoming more clearer later, a nirvana is the emptiness of the mind that has abandoned some phenomena. Or let's say those would be true cessations.
Right.
All true cessations are emptinesses. They're instances of emptiness. That means the true cessation, when you have a true cessation in your continuum, in your mental consciousness, that mind has a different quality than a mind that has not abandoned those phenomena, those objects to be abandoned, right? It hasn't ceased them from the root. It has, they're different states. The basis of imputation is different. So on a mind that has abandoned some phenomena, the emptiness of that mind is a nirvana, or that is a true cessation. The emptiness of the mind that has abandoned all of the afflictions, the emptiness of that mind is actually the meaning of nirvana. Nirvana is an emptiness of a mind which has eliminated, has abandoned all of the afflictions from the root. That makes sense, Stephen?
It does.
Venerable
But
George?
Yeah, Paul, yeah.
I was going to say, I found the section in Chandrakirti's commentary on the 60 stanzas of reasoning, where it says, there's a question, how do you explain the pronouncement by the Buddha, such as nirvana is the ultimate truth, right? My explanation is that it is called an ultimate truth by worldly convention, because its nature is non-deceptive with respect to the world.
Right. So say that again.
That nirvana is called an ultimate truth by worldly convention because its nature is non-deceptive with respect to the world.
Right. So because we recognize that nirvana is non-deceptive, conventionally the world says that's an ultimate truth. Or is that the phrase that you use? It is.
Yes. Yes.
So the fact that something is a conventional truth or an ultimate truth is something that's posited by the conventional mind. That's not done by the ultimate mind of direct realization of emptiness, right? Up there, you're just pieced out. There's no other conventionalities arising, no other phenomena arising other than emptiness itself. So it can't make any pronouncements, any statements. All statements have to be derived from the conceptual mind. So you no longer are in meditative equipoise, right? KT, are you following? What do you think? What's your take on this?
We label the peace out nirvana from the conventional side, or we have to be conventional when we speak of it, because otherwise we'd be in nirvana.
Or we would be meditative equipoise and emptiness. Would only be that meditative equipoise and emptiness would only be characterized as a nirvana if the mind of that bodhisattva, let's say, could be a hero solitary realizer, had abandoned all of the afflictions, right? That's what nirvana means. True cessations, on the other hand, would occur in those mind streams. True cessations also, from the Prasangika point of view, are emptinesses. They're instances of emptiness. So that means the emptiness of the mind which has ceased some affliction. Stephen, are you uncomfortable with that?
I'm still working through it, but yeah,
Yep.
I think, yeah, that's my pondering.
Rodin's, was Rodin's thinker like this or like this? I can't remember.
Or you say that is a
Okay.
that's a cessation, but not a nirvana.
A cessation, a true cessation, there's a difference between true cessation and cessation. True cessation is when one of the afflictions has been abandoned from the root. So that there are true cessations on the path of seeing. All of the intellectually formed afflictions are abandoned, and so there are true cessations there. And then on the first bhumi, there are more true cessations, and the second, more true cessations, as more and more subtle levels of afflictions are abandoned. Then on the eighth bhumi, at the end of the seventh bhumi, when you enter into the eighth bhumi, the eighth, ninth, and 10th bhumis are called the pure bhumis. When you enter into the eighth bhumi, you have not only more true cessations, but now that mind is free from all of the afflictions. So that meditative equipoise on emptiness would also be called a nirvana. That's not all it's called, but that's what, from this quotation, that was the main point. Just let me read that again, Mikhail, and then I'll get to this. So there, the meaning is that nirvana's status as an ultimate truth is to be posited from the perspective of conventional truth. It is not the case that Chandrakirti accepts nirvana to be a conventional truth. Nirvana itself is an ultimate truth. right? That's what we're just from the Chandrakirti's point of view. As some of you have said, from the lower tenets, they don't say it's an ultimate truth. They say it's a conventional truth. But it is not that Chandrakirti accepts nirvana to be a conventional truth. Since conventional truth is the means by which one enters ultimate truth, you think about it, you have a mental image, all of those are conventional truths. And the words that led you that way, either verbal or that you read and that you contemplated, all of those are conventional truths that lead you to emptiness, ultimate truth. So like in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, at the beginning of the chapter on emptiness, what does it say, Paul? Do you know?
I don't remember verbatim. I'm sorry.
I think that all of these have been for the purpose of this. So all of you are talking about bodhicitta, morality, all of these first chapters. What does the translation say, Louise?
The sage tore up this entire system for the sake of wisdom. Therefore, with the desire to ward off suffering, one should develop wisdom. That's the first stanza.
All of these other things were for the purpose of this, meaning emptiness. So since conventional truth is the means by which one enters ultimate truth, then just as one entertains conventions in the everyday world without probing into whether things arise from self or other. Remember, we just say like, where's your horse? Oh, it's over there, without inquiring whether it was arose from itself or other, without analysis. Then just as one entertains conventions in the everyday world without probing into whether things arise from self or another, the Madhyamika accepts conventional truths in the same unanalyzed manner. That's how Jimpa translates that. Mikhail, what are you thinking?
Thank you. Just a terminological thing. Nirvana can be called a true cessation, right?
Say again?
Nirvana can be called a true cessation, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Nirvana is a true cessation, but not all true cessations are nirvana. Nirvana is a true cessation which has eliminated all the afflictions, unless you use it kind of in a less strict way, and you could say that is a nirvana. Like Robert Thurman likes to say, when Lama Tsongkhapa realized emptiness, he had his first enlightenment or something like that. So enlightenment, usually bodhi, right? Enlightenment means different things. We talked about it when we at the very beginning of the text, how the lower schools, there was the enlightenment of a Shravaka, the enlightenment of a Pratyeka Buddha, and the enlightenment of a Buddha, the Samyak Sam Bodhi. Samyak Sam meaning some kind of adjective before it, meaning sort of like the enlightenment, which is total and complete or something like that. Whereas the other bodhis, the enlightenment of a Shravaka or the enlightenment of go on, someone say? Or the enlightenment of a Pratyeka Buddha, they're not Samyak Sam Bodhi. They're not complete enlightenment. So, okay. So just as one entertains conventions in the everyday world without probing into whether things arise from self or another, the Madhyamika accepts conventional truths in the same unanalyzed manner. Okay, Mintovo, what do you think? You have your hand up there.
Yeah, I have a question. So I think I would like to clarify a little bit on the definition of nirvana. Basically, we define nirvana as the cessation of all afflictions. And we know that, for example, in very high level of concentration, the only affliction are temporarily cease, they they do not exist for people who can attain very high level of concentration.
Right. And the operative word there is temporarily.
Yeah.
That's without the realization of emptiness, you can have a temporary cessation of the afflictions, even with, let's say, the afflictions of the desire realm when you had the first concentration, but also by realizing emptiness conventionally, you can have a temporary, they do use the word pangpa, abandonment, but they don't usually use gakpa. But there can be what's the word?
Suppressed.
Depression of those solutions, those afflictions. So continue, Mintovo.
Yeah, I guess basically, does it mean that the very high meditative concentration state are like mini instead of nirvana, like you got like a mini nirvana to some degree?
Yeah, I've never seen nirvana, those states of suppression called nirvanas. Those states of suppression in the texts on shamatha are called abandonments, but it always has to be, although there's no quotation marks in the Tibetan or anything, one always has to put them theoretically in your mind. They're not abandonment in the sense of abandoning so they never occur again. They're abandonments in the sense of being, what do they call it? Talk about the two cessations. I'm blanking. What are they called, Paul? Do you remember?
You mean the analytical and non-analytical
Yeah, right.
cessations?
They're not the result of analytical cessations. They're the result of non-analytical cessations. That you haven't brought about that cessation or that abandonment by means of analysis and ultimate truth. You just arrived at that.
By suppressing the cause, right?
Yeah, by having the cause not present and so forth.
I see. So basically, nirvana is defined as a total cessation of like all afflictions.
It's the emptiness of that.
It's the emptiness of that.
Yeah, not just the lack of those afflictions, the abandonment of those afflictions. That's what other people would say. Yeah, it's abandonment, which is a conventional thing. Prasangika says, no, it's not a conventional thing. Nirvana is not a conventional truth. It's an ultimate truth. And it's the emptiness of the mind in which one has achieved that state of the abandonment of all of the afflictions. Okay, let's continue. Just going to read a little bit more and then we'll end because we're already over. To proceed with the root text. So now he introduces verse 635. Thus, when phenomena are analyzed, nothing is found as their nature apart from suchness. So does that mean if you analyze a fire, whether it's hot or cold, all you find is suchness? Sean? You're saying yes. I think this is talking about ultimate analysis. It's not talking about, ordinary analysis. Just, what is it? Is it hot? Is it cold? Does smoke exist or something like that? Thus, when phenomena are analyzed, nothing is found as their nature apart from suchness. So the conventional truth of the everyday world should not be subjected to thorough analysis. Or as Venerable Jones said, what? Oh, I don't know where that is in her. What did she say? She translates that as, actually, I don't have her translation of that.
The bottom of page 146, Venerable George. Because of that, when those things are analyzed, I think.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Oh, I see. I was confused above where it says the commentary on Nagarjuna 60 stanzas. So because of that, when those are analyzed, When those things are analyzed, nothing is found as their nature apart from suchness. Therefore, do not analyze the truths that are worldly conventions. So in Huntington's translation, in his book, Emptiness of Emptiness, which is a good source. So that's mainly in Huntington's translation. He has first part of the book is his own philosophical, like Thurman's prefaces to his books, his own view of it, but his mainly translating all the karikas, but and this is one of the karikas, right? This is one of the verses, but also in his notes are drawn from Gompa Rapsal and from Majjhimaka Vatara Bhasham. So in Huntington's translation of this verse 35, when the entities that he has in brackets taken for granted in the context of everyday experience, or you could say, end bracket, are examined. So when the entities are examined, Joan has said, when these things are examined, okay? In the Tibetan, it says ngopo, usually can mean thing, can mean entity, has various meanings. So when these entities are examined, they are found to have no intrinsic distinguishing characteristic other than the mark of the reality, and then he has in brackets, expressed in the truth of highest meaning, meaning ultimate truth, highest meaning truth. Therefore, the conventional truth of everyday experience is not to be critically examined. Okay, so you can look, and there are other translations of that by Jeffrey in different places of this verse. This verse is translated in a lot of places. So we're going to end there. So your job, your challenge is to read that again, try to understand it before the commentary, then read the commentary that Lama Tsongkhapa has after that, and then the quotations that arise after that. There's a quotation from the 400 stanzas by Aryadeva, very famous quotation, just as a barbarian cannot be sustained through a language other than his own, or maybe you could say, just as a barbarian cannot be nurtured or, led on the path to, in the world, communication with people who don't speak your language. When barbarians come and they don't speak your language, you can't lead them through a language other than their own. Yeah, this has to be some laborious investigation how to communicate with them if you have a new language. Likewise, worldly people cannot be sustained through the conventions of the world. Okay, anyway, we'll talk about that next time. Before we end, right, Brother Shanka is now the monk. What is it? I've forgotten already. Bhikshu.
Pungsok.
No, he's no, Sumati. Okay, so what we say, Losang Punsok. Losang.
Punsok, yeah.
Or sometimes it's pronounced Lobsang with a B. The reason for that is that the second syllable sang has a prefix bao, and so in Lhasa dialect, when you say if you just pronounce the words separately, you'd say lo sang, but if together, the nasal sound of the B goes on to the first syllable, so you say lobsang. Lobsang Punsok. So Lobsang means noble-minded, and Punsok means abundant in excellence or something like that. So a very nice name that was given to him. So that's his new Quetzal name. So we can rejoice in that and dedicate the merits of our rejoicing that he be successful in that. So let's dedicate our merits and our virtues. Due to these virtues, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead all migrators without exception into that very enlightened state, that same state, Dei Sala. It doesn't say enlightened state, into that state. May the supreme precious bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow due to these virtues that I've corrected today, both in my own mind and the mind of others, as I explain these concepts to others or just debate with them. And due to these virtues, may that which has arisen in my mind and the mind of others not diminish, but increase more and more. And for our dear Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of children of the conquerors, the Bodhisattvas, you Shravakas and Pratiga Buddhas, Conqueror Losang, Rakpa means Lama Tsongkhapa, who is the spiritual father to his two spiritual sons, Gyaltsab-je and Kedrub-je, together with your Galupa lineage, all the objects of refuge of the infinite realms, please bestow now the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. Through upholding and spreading the Muni's precious teachings, precious and complete teachings, through explanation and practice, throughout that you wore the armor of patience, which is Sopa, that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make this request. Sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for the welfare of the conqueror's teachings and for the welfare of mother sentient beings. You suddenly departed to peace. You passed into parinirvana. At this, I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths of the oceanic blessings of the Triple Gem and the great waves of bodhicitta of the Bodhisattvas, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us fortunate disciples. So this can come. This could be some, who knows when this will be. Apparently, Geshe Sopa, who passed away some years ago already, his reincarnation has already been identified. So it would be nice if in our lifetime we can witness the reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us. And then finally, to all our gurus, you who are my eyes for viewing all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation, engaging as you do with skillful means moved by mercy, illuminating spiritual friends, I make this request, please live long and stable lives. So you can imagine what it would be like without the presence of His Holiness. And I mean, already we're feeling the vacuum of the lack of the presence of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and so forth. So that's why we request our gurus to have long and stable lives. So thank you so much for bearing with this tooth-crushing, bone-crushing philosophical analysis. If you have the time on Monday, we can masticate some more, and we will see. Hopefully, we'll see you and a couple of other people that had other engagements next Saturday. So be good. Keep your minds peaceful in the coming days. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Venerable
you.
George.
See you guys.
Thank you
Bye.
very much.